guys. So we have another special guest this evening for our show, and that is Heath Heath Clark, and he's the owner of I think it's H. Clark Distillery here in Thompson Station, right, Tennessee.
That's correct.
And
that's correct.
And I honestly just want to hear the story. How'd that come about? Like Thompson Station, I live not too far from there, so how'd that come about?
So we ended up in Thompson Station, sort of a meandering path. It was my story starts back in 2008, maybe a little before that. So I don't know how long you got. You should never ask a lawyer to start telling stories because it can be a while.
I
right. I grew up near Lynchburg, and so I've had a couple uncles that have been at Jack Daniel's for decades. My uncle Bill's been the sort of lead engineer at Jack Daniel's for about 30 years.
Nice.
And so, we as kids, we got to go to Jack Daniel's a lot, and it was to pick up ribs or pork shoulders or whatever Uncle Bill had put on the smoker for, family gatherings, 4th of July, that sort of stuff. And I just fell in love with the way that place smelled, the smell of whiskey, the mash, all of it. And so, apparently I talked about it a lot. And so I was in-house lawyer for one of the hospital companies here in Nashville. And my boss got tired of hearing about it. So he was like, you need to shut up and go do this. And so this was around 2008. And so, being a good trained lawyer, I made a checklist. What do I need to do to start a distillery? And so it turns out that it's not get corn, it's not get a still. The first thing you need to start a distillery is get permission. And it turns out that you need permission from, God and everybody to start a distillery.
In Tennessee.
So in 2000, in Tennessee. So in 2008, it was illegal to distill in 92 of our 95 counties. And so one of these artifacts of prohibition required that for you to open your distillery, you actually had to have a voter referendum on whether you could open. And so not just voting on liquor by the drink or retail package sales, but you also had to vote on whether to allow manufacture. So, that started my boss that was sort of on me to shut up and go do this. His college roommate, still a good friend of his, was a dentist in Murfreesboro who was the dentist for one of your previous guests, Senator Bill Ketchum. And so I had, got introduced to Nate, told him about this idea.
No HIPAA violations whatsoever.
No. So he's like, hey, you need to meet, you need to talk to, he just called him Bill. And I had no idea. So naive. I didn't know that he, state senator, but not just that, but, he was really, powerful head of the state and local committee, which is where our bill would ultimately land. And so, it sort of came back, was like, okay, guys, what are you looking for? What do you have in mind? And so, it was kind of put to us to come up with an idea for making this happen. And so the idea that I came up with was really based on the premise that people that like to drink whiskey aren't going to mind if somebody makes it. And so drafted legislation that basically read that way. So if you've already passed liquor by the drink and retail package sales, you get to skip this manufacturer referendum, and you can go straight to manufacturer and spirits. And so Senator Ketchum ended up sponsoring that bill. We got to meet several people in the process, including the folks at Corsair and Mike Williams down with Tennessee Distilling. And it passed. I didn't know it wasn't supposed to, but it made its way through the state house, and we got made it past the Senate by one vote, 17-16. And so it's this was back in 2009. So I had decided to go into business with a few of the people. We were going to shoot the moon, and then there was the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, and we never really got out of the gate. And so their businesses were too big to fail in 2008. Well, ours was too big to get started, and so it sort of collapsed. So I ended up sort of leaving the hospital company, starting my own law practice. About a couple years after that, I was talking to my wife. I was like, I still have this idea and this dream, and wanted to chase it. And so she said, if you're going to do this, put your name on it and only do things you want your name on. So we ended up in Thompson Station because I was down there having lunch one day, and the mayor thought it'd be a cool feature for what he was trying to do with the downtown area of that little town. So
where's it located in Thompson Station?
Well, it's downtown. One of 5 buildings downtown. So
I was gonna say I've been
by
downtown.
the train tracks and town hall, right?
So
Circa
I know where I was gonna say.
right
So I see where Circa is at. So where is it in relation to Circa?
So from Circa, head towards Carter's Creek Pike. So go west.
Okay.
So there's a whistle stop development.
Tracks.
That's right. So we're right in front of the railroad tracks.
Yeah, cool. It's awesome. I have to swing by there because Circa is one of my favorite places to go for fine dining. It's a great little restaurant for sure. All right. So John, what kind of questions you got?
So Heath, so I was lucky to be a part of to do the tour, and to be honest, there was a couple things I was not looking forward to the tour. One of it was actually the gin, because I'm not a big gin guy. And then the black and tan, just only because I'm not also a big beer guy, but I was very surprised. The black and tan, it shocked me. I was I was very shocked at how much I liked it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually really good. I was not anticipating some of the flavors that I'm pulling out of this. I've told Jody, and I actually just dropped off a bottle to Jody, gifted him one today, and it's like this chocolate malt ball. And the other one was the gin, but I actually gave Jody the gin because I was actually surprised by the gin. I was like, oh my gosh, I guess I had the wrong gin the one time that I had it, and told myself I'm not a big gin person. But tell us a little bit about kind of where you're currently at with H. Clark Distillery, and kind of this new venture that you're doing with with a few of your partners like Jeff Arnett, the Clayton family, and others.
Yeah. So my wife and I started H. Clark back in 2014, and we had we knew with a small distillery we knew how big the chassis was and what we could accomplish, and some of the limitations of being as small as we were. And so we set out to make the best stuff we could. So we're not gonna be able to make very much of it, so let's make it great. And so we spent 6 or 9 months really on the gin. Really started with individual botanicals, figured out what they did, who they got along with, and built it from the ground up. Knowing that juniper was a base, we went and found what other people used in gin. So we ended up isolating about 26 different botanicals to see what they tasted like, smelled like, acted like. There's only 6 in our gin, and so we spent just months isolating the botanicals and getting concentrates of those, and then really just eyedroppers of combinations, of just hundreds of combinations that we tried to figure out what we were doing. And so we ended up with a base we liked, and kept working on it. And even when you're working on scaling it up, it probably took us another 2 years in production to really perfect what we were doing. And so last year we entered it into the first contest with it. We entered the Ascot Awards, which was a new tasting contest started by Fred Minnick. So a completely blind tasting contest, and it came out on top as the best gin at the Ascot Awards. So it's for not just there's a lot of awards out there that are you enter, you get a trophy. There's only a couple that really I think worth the weight of the award, and Ascot is one of them. So we're happy to have made a world-class product in a little barn in Thompson Station. The Black and Tan was born out of my fondness for Sam Smith's Oatmeal Stout Ale. I got to go by that
exactly what
brewery.
It tastes like too.
Yeah, well, that's what it's based on. So I got to go through the Sam Smith Brewery in college in York, England, and I thought, man, this might be fun if we turned it into a whiskey. And so we, kept working on mash bills and tweaking the amount of malt, and the amount of oats, and the amount of chocolate malt and yeast until it kind of smelled like the Sam Smith Brewery. And so when the beer smelled a little bit like Sam Smith, we started distilling it, and just really worked on that distillation technique to really pull that big chocolate note out of the back end of that whiskey. And so that was another one that started out pretty strong, but took a couple of years to really perfect. And so, and we spent a lot of time on the finishing with that, and new barrels, used barrels, and have a lot of fun with it. And so, we've been doing that, our bourbon, for quite a while. Over the last couple of years, a lot of conversations had started up. I've been on the board of the Distillers Guild for about 5 years. I guess I'm finishing up my 6th year, where I got to meet Chris Tatum and Jeff Arnett and get to know those guys and work with them. We've worked well together in legislation, and it was one of those where, like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could work together, or what would happen if we put all our efforts pulling in the same direction instead of different directions. And really those advanced to pro formas to ideas, and then COVID hit, and it created just enough space, I think, in the industry for all of us to kind of pause and think about what we want to do with the next phase of our life. And we ended up taking the plunge and working together. So H. Clark is now a company. We've merged, and so we had a holding company set up to start buying property and products and bottles and all that stuff. And so we are one and the same now. And so we've got a new bourbon out there, which is a wheated bourbon that Jeff blended from 3 different wheated bourbons, and finished it with some toasted maple. That has just been, we launched it in November. It's been great. It's been great to see the reaction to that. And then as we go into the year, we're going to be adjusting some of the H. Clark products, and so they're going to taste the same, but they're going to look a little differently. So a lot of things to come on that front over the next couple of months.
So if you don't mind me asking, what's the aging process up for it, and or the distillation process that you guys are trying to put forth to the consumer? Like, what do you want? I mean, like, for example, when I have the Black and Tan, everything you described is absolutely spot on. The only thing I would add to it is it has more of which is very similar to the beer that you were talking about, but has a very coffee-like finish.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it like? That right there is a huge selling point for me, because I love that taste. I mean, it's, when it comes to beer, I'm like John, not much of a beer drinker, but I prefer, if I'm going to have them, it's going to be a stout. It's very stout tasting. It's going to be an oatmeal stout is my preference, which are hard to find unless you go to a microbrewer. But what is it you guys are wanting to, like, your staple in the market? Like, I'm pretty sure I know what Corsairs is. I know what Belmead's is, so on and so on. What is you guys?
We're not really shooting to have, a single staple or, a single product. Our goal in coming together was to create houses of expertise and, bring the best of Tennessee to the rest of the country. And so, we're going to pursue different distillation and mashing techniques on the whiskey side, different, wood finishing techniques. We're going to push the envelope on experimentation. We're also going to be, do some things pretty conventional on the whiskey side. And so we're hoping to explore, lots of space. On gin, we're going to keep doing it. We're going to try to grow that product. We know it's a fantastic product, and more people need to have it. And so we're actively working to scale it up and take it to the next level. And so who knows what all we're going to come up with. I think we haven't even gotten the chance to go all mad scientist yet. So we, it's too early for some of our best ideas to even have a chance to reach the market. And so when we do that, we're going to have tasting rooms and, here in Thompson Station and Townsend and ultimately Alcoa. And those are going to be platforms for us to welcome guests to either try what we've come up with or maybe be guinea pigs. So, as we sort of get into full swing, we're going to introduce products in our bottle shops, and some of them may make it to distribution. Most of them probably won't. but it's going to be a fun place to explore. And so when you come see us, you'll get to try some of our mad scientist sort of concoctions, see how they go.
Well, I know that we have exploited the black and tans throughout the countryside. I can assure you of that. So there is people that are having this in Maryland, Arizona, and Miami, right, John? For sure.
Miami, Pittsburgh, and even the UK.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know you explored that option. So that's awesome. So we're getting the name out there because one, it's an excellent product, and then two, it's also local and it's outside of the black label. Like I don't want to hide my feelings. I loathe Jack Daniels, loathe it. But this is something I do like, and it's what's funny is like I was mentioning earlier, like Leaper's Fork is fantastic. Bell Mead is obviously fantastic. And then Willer's Raid is really good as well. This right here is right there with them. And that's what I like about it is it's a nice, well, one, it's local. I mean, you're literally right down the road from my house. So I can't wait to head over there, but you don't want to head over to some place that's junk. You know what I'm saying? So this is something I can't wait to go and experience and have the opportunity to meet you in person and of course walk through your facilities. But I do want to ask one final question because we were kind of before the show came on. John kind of alluded to it with the police and the what was it, the moonshine?
Oh yeah.
So I want to hear about that if it's something you felt
Sure.
you can share.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great story. I'm happy to share it. It was a fun day. So about 4 years ago, the airport announced they were going to sort of redo their concessions program. And so we, Chris and I, on the board of the Distillers Guild, we decided that, well, we wanted a place at the table and, dug in, on that process and, ended up getting awarded, two store locations in the airport. One of them is now open. It's called Three Casks. If you're familiar with Nashville Airport, it's, at the end of the C concourse in that sort of southwest cul-de-sac there, on the gates, 19 through 20, whatever, 23, 24.
This is twice the day on this one show that you've heard that everybody needs to fly Southwest. Just saying.
Well, at least go check those people out the cul-de-sac. So if you're over, stuck on A or B, make the trip across the airport to
Right.
Three Casks. So the operators of Three Casks are Aero Services Group. They're out of Minneapolis. Just wonderful people. Can't say enough good things about them. So a couple of years ago, they're like, "Hey, we'd like a moonshine still in the restaurant." And I was like, "Well, okay, let me make some phone calls." And so I grew up, near Lynchburg, and so I called a longtime family friend and relative, sort of cousin-in-law. Who's the sheriff of Franklin County. I know one of his brothers was my preacher growing up. His other brother married my cousin. So I called Sheriff Fuller and I was like, "Tim, looking for a moonshine still, where a man might be able to find one." And so he kind of demurred and told me to expect a phone call from one of my childhood friends, who was a deputy sheriff and on their drug task force, a gentleman named George Dyer. And so George called me the next day and he said, "I hear you're looking for a moonshine still." I'm like, "Well, yeah." And he's like, "All right, I'm gonna come see you." So George shows up later that week with not one but three moonshine stills. And so George was up on part of Franklin County known as Sherwood. Half of Franklin County's mountains. It's real remote. And so he's up on Sherwood serving a drug warrant. He'd finished executing that warrant and was just kind of walking the property as part of the process. And behind a shed was these working moonshine stills, back in 2008. And so they seized the stills, the whiskey, the burners, the mash tubs, the condensers, all that stuff. And they'd been in the evidence locker. Well, and another thing, the guy that was running them was a guy named Robin Hood. And so, so this guy named Robin Hood is making whiskey up on Sherwood. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And so, Tim would say that he would get arrested every November so he could spend the winter in jail, kind of thing. And so anyway, these things were sitting in the evidence locker. The sentence had long since passed, and they wanted to get rid of them. And so they brought them to us. And when we got the restaurant finally built out and opened, I asked if they'd be willing to help me put it in place. And so Doug Crulin with the airport authority and the police department were all game. So we loaded the still in the back of a patrol car and drove it to the airport. And so we had the George and Tim and some of the other folks on the drug task force there to escort the still back to 3 casks. And so the fun thing was, since all these guys were armed, they're law enforcement. We all had to be escorted by the airport police, and so they had 2 just locked and loaded airport police out in front with a bomb dog, and then me pulling a wagon with this moonshine still, and then the Franklin County Police Department with me and around the still. And so there were some wide-eyed folks in the Nashville airport on January 29th. And so we got to the back, we got it installed. And so if you want to see this piece of history, go see 3 casks. It's right there in the middle with a little plaque recognizing George and Tim and Robin Hood. So
that's what I was going to ask. Is Robin Hood recognized as well in there?
He is. There's a little bit of a deferment. I allege his name is Robin Hood on the plaque because, don't want to get him actually in trouble.
We just need him to come out and sign this thing and let him know that all charges.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, but if he wants to go and visit his baby, he knows where it's located. And
he might go look at it.
It's in Terminal C, I think, in the cul-de-sac near the Southwest terminal. So is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So, well, Jody, it's winter time, so Robin Hood's in jail to stay warm for them.
That has been really cold lately here at Tennessee.
That may be true.
But well, Jody, we can go and adjourn. But Heath, we do appreciate your time and
happy to talk to you.
Yeah, we appreciate taking extra time because I know we're way past that time that we gave you. But go be with your family, have fun tonight.
We're going to. Y'all come see us. We'll be opening up in Townsend in May. June, so keep your eyes open and ears to the ground for when we actually get out of the ground there. But in the meantime, please come see us in Thompson Station. We've got the company bourbon and all the H. Clark spirits there ready to enjoy.
Real quick, website. Do you have a website?
Yes, companydistilling.com.
Cool deal. I'll put it at the in the comments.
Excellent. And also hclarkdistillery.com for until we kind of finish that digital integration.
Cool.
All right.
Dig it.
Well, thanks.
All
thanks,
right.
Heath. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
You too, sir.
All right, bye.
All right. So now since we've had our little brief history on everything, by the way, super thankful, John, first of all, for you orchestrating all that and doing all the legwork to get all the logistics done, to get everyone on board. Fantastic interviewees, and special thanks to all of them. Looking forward to it. With that being said, though, I'm looking forward to trying 3 of the samples you provided me when I met with you earlier today that came from the Heath Clark distillery, correct?
Yeah. So coming straight out of Heath's distillery down in Thompson Station, which we heard from him. So not too far from you and I. I mean, I'm 20-ish minutes from him. You're probably about the same in the opposite direction. So we'll try a couple of different things coming from his distillery and kind of what he's being a part of with this new venture. So let's get to it. But I say we cleanse our palate and we'll try something different. It's outside of our norm.
It's definitely outside of my norm.
It's even outside of my norm. But I'm telling you, if you'd have asked me before I tried it, I'd have said, F you, I am not trying gin. I'm not a gin person. I am whiskey, bourbon all day, every day. You're not going to change my mind. But if you go do his tour in Thompson Station, it's $15. You get the history that, Heath just gave to us, and you get to see his shop. And, it's actually, I was actually shocked. It's actually a lot smaller than you think. It's, it's probably the size of our downstairs. of both yours and I's house. I mean, it's small. It's an old like hay barn or feed barn that was just off the railroad tracks there. But you'll get some of the history when you do the tour. But you get 6 samples during your tasting. So 4
Heavy
of
hand
which
pours.
depends on the day, but are we recorded? But no, I mean, the day I went, it was definitely heavy pours, and I was very grateful because it was a great experience. But 4 of which are bourbons or whiskeys, and the other 2 were Heath's gin, and I was not looking forward to those. But we'll try the gin. I couldn't find the other gin that he has. It's his other gin is the it's called heirloom gin. And I can't remember the difference, but it's not your typical gin. It's actually it looks just like a whiskey. It's actually amber in color. I can't remember the difference about it, and I should have looked it up before the show. But this one that we're going to try is the one that he was just talking about, that won the Ascot Awards with Fred Mimic. And so this is the one that we're going to try. And so let's do it. Let's see what your thoughts are, and well, let's give it a whirl.
It's got it's heavy on the nose.
It's different though, right? I mean, it's definitely a flavor that we're not accustomed to, because we're used to smelling, tobacco, definitely getting some of the oak,
Yeah,
the
this
rye,
is like
the grains.
I don't want to say what but it's definitely different. We'll just say that.
I mean, to me, to be honest, I mean, I don't know the tasting notes, or how maybe the gin connoisseurs go through their tastings, but to be honest, I mean, my first impression, like, it smells like potpourri. I mean, it smells like grandma's potpourri on the bath, the toilet. But this is not bad. I mean, it's not bourbon, Jody. But what are your? I can see it on your face. What
I'm
what
trying
are
to grow the
what are your
beard out.
thoughts?
I think I'll agree with you. It's definitely not like any gin I've had before. And if it was in a selection of gin that I had to pick from, this would be the one I would go probably for. That's the truth. All right. The thing I don't like about gin is it always tastes so young, which is why you get all the fruity notes, the very flowery stuff, and all that. All things I don't really like, so I'm just being honest. Do I think it's good? Yeah, I think it would be better if it was mixed with like some type of strawberry shake of some sort, or maybe some type of mixture like that. It'd probably be fantastic. That's because that's what I'm connecting with it, is maybe like a strawberry, and actually I'm hearing shake in my head. Like that's what I think would be great with it, because I could see yourself going, I'm liquored up now, because this is absolutely going to do it,
Yeah.
It's definitely better than like White Lightning. It has actually a taste to it. It doesn't feel like it's just burning me out, I'm still gonna pass on gin though. I'm just being honest.
Well, we like what he like, and to be honest, I mean, I bought a bottle just because. Well, to be honest, I mean, it's his labels are going to change, and so I really want to support local, and I want to kind of get the old label, and
of
so
course,
it's more of a
1000% agree with you.
Branding thing. But I mean, it's a pretty good product, and for those who come over to my house and we get to sit in this room and enjoy a cocktail together, or pour, if they're into gin, I'm going to offer that, because I really feel like that's a great quality product. It's just not. It's really just not for me. I mean, I'm going to definitely stick to my bourbon and whiskey, the stuff that I like. But I mean, it is a great product. I have no bad things to say about it.
No, I'm with you in that. I'm with you when it comes to like, I'm not a gin drinker. I'll start there. So take that for what it's worth. There's people out there who love gin. And if those people, I would tell you that put this at least give this a try. I would be more, I would find that probably if you got a report or a tasting experience from those individuals, you could probably get a true placement of it. But what I will tell you, I do like about it is it's not harsh.
No, it's not.
And that's maybe like you, the reason why I don't drink gin is I remember that harsh, like, like, I don't know, it just isn't harsh. I don't know how to even
Yeah.
explain it any other way other than saying it's not harsh,
Yeah. No, I
So,
agree. No, I just wanted you to try it. It is something different that, we typically wouldn't do on the Barcast. I know, we have, Mark.
Mao loves gin. It's his thing. He
Oh,
loves
okay.
gin.
Yeah, I did not know that, but like David and Mark and and some others love rum, and we talk about rum on the show,
Mhm.
outside of bourbon and whiskey. But I thought this would be kind of cool to try something
Yeah,
different, but try something
absolutely.
local to you and I. But well, we'll try something else new. But I was sipping on the Black and Tan, and we'll have our
I
own
was too. Yeah.
little show at Black and Tan, so we'll kind of discuss that
The big things I picked
later
up out
on.
of the Black and Tans is it does have a very oatmeal front, oatmeal stout like front, and it
Yeah.
finishes very coffee to me.
Yeah. But we've talked on the Barcast several times, like before you go to a high proof, or before you go grab that Stag Junior, or something that's 120 proof and above, sometimes it's great to just go ahead and wet that palate a little bit, get something that's 86, 93 proof, something that you're comfortable with. Just go ahead and prep that palate, and then go into something a little bit higher proof. Man, to be honest, I feel like that's the perfect pour. That Black and Tan is the perfect pour to kind of start that palate a little bit. It's easy to sip.
It's definitely easy to sip.
It's got a good flavor.
I think it would be. I'm having everything straight, or neat.
Yeah.
I think it would be with a little bit of ice to help water it, not water it down, but kind of open it up a little bit. I think would make it much more reflective of what you're describing for me.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
And I don't like a lot of young whiskeys, and I don't think I'd be surprised if that's over 4 years old. I don't even know if it's over 2 years old.
Yeah.
But
Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the age is. We'll have to look that up before we do that show. But yeah, I wouldn't have classified that as a young whiskey. The other one that we're not going to try tonight is his Tennessee bourbon, his small batch. What we are going to try tonight is his single barrel. So we're going to try that one next. This one is aged for 4 years. This particular bottle we're trying is exactly 4 years on the dot. It is 90 proof. So they do proof it down to 90. I believe they have done a cask strength before, but I believe if I remember from the tour, he wanted to produce something that, it wasn't going to, burn your mouth wide open from, taking a sip. He wanted something that you can enjoy, that everybody can enjoy. And so that's kind of why it's proofed a little bit lower. I think the Black and Tan's right at 80 proof.
it is. Another thing I want to bring up about the Black and Tans or Black and Tan that I found fascinating is that I'm really into complexities. And I really do believe that if we had 5 people sitting around and all of us had a drink of that, I think we would pick up some similar things. But I think there would be, what I love about the complexities of this is that I think all 5 people would still have at least one tasting note or smelling note that might have been, or nosy note, I should say, that might have been different from the standard 5 that we'd all immediately say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting with it. And I do like interesting, bourbons, and that's what I dig about it.
Yeah. Well, this Tennessee bourbon, this single barrel, right on the nose. I get maple syrup. It's kind of what I'm picking up first. It's definitely sweet to the nose.
I can see that.
Maybe,
I can see the syrup. I can definitely see that maple syrup.
Maybe a little bit of caramel, vanilla on that.
Caramel is actually stronger than the maple, in my opinion. Almost has a Cracker Jack smell.
Yeah, I could definitely see that too. Yeah. Um, I think on the
That's really
tongue,
good. That's really good.
yeah, on the tongue, I still get some of that sweetness. But on the finish, I get the grain.
Yeah, corn grain or wheat grain. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can see that.
I feel like it's very soft.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It has a bite though initially. Like it's definitely, you can definitely feel the alcohol forward, but what I think is, well, for me, but what I find interesting about it is the way that it just I guess dissipates over the palate, and that's where you pick up the different, or at least I do pick up the different things that I find interesting in it. It doesn't have a cinnamon hit or anything like that. I'm not picking up anything like that. I think it's more of strangely enough, I pick up a lot of honey and other sweet type cues from it. Almost like a honeysuckle, if that makes any sense, is what I pick up from it.
like on the finish.
Mm-hmm. And then also maybe what the hell those things called? So it's type of cookies, a raisin, like some type of raisin cookie, oatmeal cookie. That's what I'm thinking of. Oatmeal raisin cookie with a little bit of honeysuckle on it. That's exactly how I would describe the finish.
So definitely tasting the grain. It's kind of where you're picking up that oatmeal,
Mm-hmm.
the sweetness from the raisin.
Mm-hmm. Well, sweetness would come from probably the honeysuckle and then a little bit of the raisin, I would imagine. Yeah, that's good. That's solid. That's a solid pick right there. I like that one. And you only gave me a little bitty sample. What an ass.
Um, so this next one is the company distilling. I think I talked a little bit about this on another session, Barcast that we had, but my Ashley and I picked this up. Well, not this particular bottle because we've gone through actually a handful of bottles already, but we picked this up in Hendersonville for the first time. We were heading out to family member's house to like do a cookout or some type of get together, but we picked this up on the way out there, and I was like, well, let's give it a try. I looked it up while I was there, and I was like, oh shoot, this is Jeff Arnett. He's former master distiller, um, of Jack Daniels. This has got a maple finish. It's finished with maple wood. I bet this is going to be good. So we tried it. Ashley and I fell in love with this particular bourbon. This is at 90 proof. Like I said, finished with maple wood. I listened to another podcast to learn a little bit more about the company, and that's actually where I found out that this particular bottle was connected to H. Clark Distillery, and I was like, oh shoot, I need to go out there and try this. Like, if Heath is kind of moving to this company distilling umbrella, I definitely need to go out there before all the kind of company transitions. But it's just to be honest, it's a really good pour. I'm a big fan of kind of the maple finish.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah, but I was listening to the podcast, Jeff Arnett was talking about having some frustrations, and you and I have kind of experienced this professionally, kind of understanding how corporations work and the bureaucracy and stuff that often happens, and you are in a position to do X, Y, and Z, but then you want to be innovative and do this and this and set yourself apart from a brand, but then the corporate bureaucracy says no. And that's actually what Jeff Arnett was experiencing at Jack Daniels. He was there for I think over 10 years. I think I want to say it was either right at 10 years or is it right at 12 years. It was either one of those. But he was really wanting to take that Jack Daniels gold label with the maple finish that was originally created for the Asian market, and he was wanting to take that and actually create something for the American market, and he wanted to do X, Y, and Z. But Jack Daniels, even though he was the master distiller, he still had to report to this board that said, no, you're not doing that. And so he had this level of frustration as a master distiller. He was there to do this job, but was being told no. And so he had this level of frustration. And when this opportunity came about where, Heath and the other guy's name, Heath said his name, but when Heath, Jeff Arnett, and the investors, which are the Clayton family, started company distilling, this was Jeff's opportunity to take what he truly wanted to do at Jack Daniels and branch out a little bit, try something new, try something that wasn't in the market. And this is what they came up with. Now, this is not their own juice. This is sourced. It's actually sourced out of Ohio, if I remember correctly. Columbus, Ohio. And it's aged for a minimum of 3 years. So it could be, it is young. This could be 5 years. We don't really know. But the podcast I listened to about Jeff Arnett talking about when he was at this, distillery, trying to source his whiskey to put in this bottle to open up to the Tennessee market, he was blown away by what he was tasting. He was like, oh my gosh. He was like, man, this is really good. And this is exactly what we want for, our brand. So this is what they've bottled and released to the market. And man, to be honest, it has become one of my favorites. It's one of Ashley's favorites, who's not, she cannot drink something neat, but this is something that is definitely worth picking up for $55 at your local liquor store.
I will tell you that everything you said is absolutely spot on. It is really, really good. I don't mean for this to sound crass or nothing, but it's the best thing we've had tonight. It is that good. It has a lot. Well, quite honestly, it's probably better than anything. I don't know about that. It has it's similar in taste to Rabbit Hole, their bourbon version, which you guys have watched show, I love. I can see myself going to try to find this now. It is really, really good. If it wasn't for the fact that I made a resolution that I need to try to get through some of the bottles I have before I go buy any more. So I may hold off for a little bit, but this is fantastic. So it really is good. Really, really good. And I love the finish on it. And it's not just the complexities with it. It's actually a good sipper. Like that is I could have that every single night before I went to bed. That's how good it is. Think about that. I mean, like a lot of people love, 110 proof or something that's, solid, heavy hitter right before they go to bed. That right there is, and have it by a campfire, have it on a boat, obviously not driving, hanging out with friends, conversating, we'll say, sitting by a fire, or as a hot toddy before I go to bed.
Yeah.
So,
well, Jody, I know we're well over what we thought we were going to be.
Yep.
But
we can make this into 2 shows. It's all good.
Yeah. I mean, I think this was a cool experience. I mean, this is something that we definitely don't always get to do as a Barcast. We don't get the privilege of being able to invite some of the people like we had on tonight. We don't have the opportunity to always exploit what's coming out of Tennessee always, because, company may not be in Denver, Colorado, or in Pittsburgh, or in Miami, or in Arizona just yet, where, our friends are. And it's really cool to be able to kind of showcase the up and what I feel like is the up and coming market. Tennessee is going to be the place to be. And I think, to be honest, I think, Mayor Ketchum's right in a way that I think the Kentucky Bourbon Trail is going to be an afterthought in the next 10 years. The Tennessee Whiskey Trail is going to be right up there with, coming to learn about the Tennessee history, some of the cool things coming out, whether it's blends, which is big right now, learning about blends, different sourcing. But, I think it's really cool when people get behind stories, and that's what we have to offer with our history.
Puffery.
Yeah, puffery. Yeah, for sure. You made Jeff proud right now.
I'm sure I did. I wanted to balk at everything you said from the get-go of what you said. I really did. I'm just going to be trying to be transparent, authentic as humanly possible. However, when you look at the number one selling bourbon whiskey throughout the world, it's Jack Daniel's, which is synonymous with what? The word Tennessee. So I do think that, I thought about that as soon as you said, like, come on, man, the bourbon trail Tennessee whiskey trail is going to outdo the bourbon trail. I think there is some truth to that. One is it's actually a state. It's from one end of the state to the other end of the state. That is freaking cool. All right. Where the bourbon trail in Kentucky, it's like 60 miles total in totality. All right. You hit one town, Bardstown, you have like 12 of them right there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So where I think for the premises of tourism, hospitality, just the coolness of this state. I mean, I'm not originally from Tennessee. I moved here, I mean, that's not true. I was born in Tennessee, but I moved away very young, came back. I love it here. I was just talking about today with one of my colleagues. It's in Utah. I couldn't see myself moving out of Tennessee unless honestly it was to Kentucky. And it's only because I'd want to have even less people around me, which could be potentially West Virginia for too long, who knows? I looked at Alaska over the last week and I can't afford land up there currently. So, but no, long story short with it, I do think there is some potential validity to that. I think that we would see more outsiders to the bourbon world, meaning people who are foreign once our country is completely open, that would be more interested in the Tennessee trail versus the bourbon trail.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, the bourbon trail is kind of played. It's kind of played its course. And what I mean by that is I'm probably the only one of the group that's recently done it. When I mean recently, within the last 2 months, and you couldn't get any of the top shelf stuff in the tasting. Yeah. And where the cool thing about the Tennessee whiskey trail would be is that, quite honestly, you get to try everything.
Yeah.
All of it's available. Yeah.
Yep. I think the only thing that's not available right now is I just went to Uncle Nearest last weekend, and this 1856 that's become one of my favorites is not available. 1820, there are 11 years currently not available. It's supposed to be releasing soon, but I think that the availability of just those two shows the growth and the popularity that Tennessee whiskey or this new spirits community in the state has to offer. So, but that's all I have to say. But I appreciate you hanging out, and I think it's been a cool show.
I totally agree with you. Well, guys, I would say what's in your glass, but my glass is empty. So everybody be safe, be responsible, have a good night. And John, again, thanks for doing all this for us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys.
What's your name? What? What is your name? Tony!